It's been a minute since Jimmy and I were together, and man, do we got a lot to talk about.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson. That's me. Alabama internet legend Jimmy Stein. That's him. This episode is brought to you by TurboTax. And man, it's tax season. You better be in turbo mode. We'll talk about TurboTax here in just a minute. Want to thank you everydayers for being here every day. Thank you newbies for being here today. And thanks everybody for making this your first listen every single day. Jimmy, we got so much to discuss. There have been transfer portals in and out, some surprising, some devastating, to me at least. And some sort of blah, okay, yeah, see what happens. Auburn, our national long nightmare is over. They are out of the Final Four. And I can't wait to tell you a little story about my daughter and I watching that game, and me, I guess. My daughter and me. No, my daughter and I watching that game last night. I get real hung up on the grammar stuff.
Say like I and my daughter.
Yeah.
How about that? I and my daughter.
How about if I said Luke and my daughter, and like I go, Jimmy's getting upset.
But I and my daughter sounds like the title of like some book they would read in like an Oprah book club. I and my daughter.
Okay. But the main thing we want to discuss is the scrimmage on Friday. That was a big deal. Look, lots and lots has come out from that. Even some conflicting reports to a degree from various folks that I've spoken to. And obviously we can't get into, we're not going to give away anybody and get anybody in trouble, but we are going to discuss what we can know to the best of our ability without revealing.
Well, there's been reports on sites. There's a Intel report on BamaInsider.com. There's one on BOL. AL.com had stuff. So I think just from reading media reports, it's been quite a bit of stuff is out there.
Well, the story to me seemed to be wide receiver. Mm-hmm. That's what it seemed to be to me. Okay. And one of the reasons is Ryan Williams didn't play. And you know, this is a Ryan Williams podcast. And I don't need Ryan Williams to play. He's a little banged up, apparently. And okay, I don't need him to play. Some people may disagree with me, like get all the work in you can. Okay. I know what Ryan Williams can do. So I'm fine with letting Jeremy Bernard and Derek Meadows and Isaiah Horton and Lotzier Brooks and Rico Scott and all those cats do the yeoman work here because I want to see them in those positions. And two dudes that apparently stood out in this scrimmage were Isaiah Horton and Lotzier Brooks. And frankly, it's weird. The first report I got wasn't from an internet site. It was from more of firsthand account. And several people were brought up. Lotzier Brooks was not brought up. I think this particular person wasn't just as in tune with who Lotzier Brooks was. And like I don't think Brooks had any, I think it sounds like he had the most catches, but it doesn't sound like he had a spectacular moment that made you think it was one of those really quiet 7-catch days. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I just know that, he's been highlighted in all the insider reports. And look, my takeaway of that, particularly as it relates to those receivers, is it's that it's not a surprise. You've been following spring practice all along. And I know to many, it seems like there hasn't been a lot of information because the media isn't allowed to cover, these spring practice. There haven't been a lot of information. There has actually been some. And then this wide receiver news sort of lines up what we've heard all along and what you've heard, when you listen to Locked On Bama every day is that Lotzier Brooks is basically going to be one of these guys that despite the depth of that group, despite Ryan and Germ being back, despite Zay Horton clearly going to be a thing, Lotzier's just going to be too good to keep off the field, which is fun considering he wasn't ranked super highly. One of my favorite things to discuss about Brooks is he's the opposite of what normally happens. Normally, when Alabama signs a guy who isn't rated or ranked very highly by the recruiting services, the fans all sort of have a low opinion of the guy. It sort of mimics what the rankings are. With Lotzier, it's totally different than that. Lotzier's not ranked super high, yet the fans, the ones on the message boards, you guys that listen to the show every day, were super high on him. I think we might be more high on Lotzier Brooks than any, quote, lower ranked recruit I can remember. But Lotzier has shown out the entire spring and did so again in the scrimmage, apparently. And I think that we should all be really excited. I even, maybe Lotzier is even wide receiver 4, which is a heck of a thing to say, considering clearly Ryan and Germ are 1 and 2 no matter what happens this fall. Ryan and Germ are 1 and 2, and Zay Horton just seems to be, with his experience and size and everything else, kind of destined to be that wide receiver 3. But Lotzier, he's been a story the entire spring. I think the scrimmages almost served as an exclamation point to what we've kind of been hearing all along, right?
I have a theory about why Lotzier Brooks, people are excited about him despite his not being highly ranked. Now, he ended up being pretty highly ranked.
Especially all 3.
Yeah, fourth, 4-star in the top 100-ish. He ended up being pretty highly ranked overall.
On 3. On 3. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure about the other ones. I can look, but
yeah.
I mean, on 3 is sort of the Bible of it to me, because I think they do the best job. But so he ended up being pretty highly ranked overall. But one thing that I think allowed people to fall in love with this cat is that on BOL, they kept posting links to his live game feeds, and it was free. You didn't have to have NFHS subscription or anything. You just watched it. And see, for me, as a guy who does the scoreboard show a lot of Friday nights, what I do, because, I live in Birmingham and I work in Alex City and the scoreboard show's in Alex City, I just stay at my office most of the day. And then about, 6, 7 o'clock, I go to my parents' house, come back, go to the office about 6, 7 o'clock. And I just watch on the NFHS and watch other high school games so that I can be ready to discuss more about the intricacies of the games on the scoreboard show. And Lotzier Brooks's games were on at either 5 o'clock Central or 6 o'clock Central most every Friday night.
Right.
And it was sort of the only game in town because, as you know, AHSAA games start around 7. So, it was a fun watch before you watched some Alabama high school. And he was magnificent. I mean, he was clearly the best player every time he was on the field. So it was easy to pick him out. It was easy to watch him, and he was kind of the only game in town if you're into that. And I think most of people who listen to this program probably are into that. So
I think Lotzier is also sort of adopted as what amounts to, it's in part to what you're saying. I'm sure he was kind of almost like the mascot of the class on BOL. I mean, like the most discussed recruit, which is normally the 5-star. And it was Keelan, of course, but outside of the 5 stars, which normally, suck up all the oxygen in the room, Lotzier was just, and I know myself watching the tape, I mean, I hesitate to say it just because it's such a loud thing to say, but he had 5-star tape to me. And I don't say that lightly because I know how that works. And Lotzier doesn't have 5-star size. He doesn't have 5-star. 5-star is normally reserved for guys that would have also a pro football projection to a degree, and Lotzier's an undersized guy. So I don't think that undersized wide receivers should almost ever be 5 stars myself. But there's exceptions to every rule, right? Lotzier played like an exception to the rule. And the fact that he's great and is going to be great at Alabama, I'm surprised zero. I mean, I fully expected this.
Well, and I think Lotzier Brooks can also thank somebody like a Javi Arenas for people falling in love with him. So, sort of if you remember when Javi was signed, he was about a no-star, and he was sort of a throw-in to the class. And then he just comes in and he's, one of the best return men in Alabama history and a fantastic defensive back and part of the rejuvenation, the renaissance of Alabama football. So, and Lotzier is a little undersized, a little chip on the shoulder, comes from New Jersey, which, they have some good players. But, I mean, I would think for the most part, when you think great high school football, I'm not sure you think New Jersey. I mean, I mean,
Right.
I'm not trying to take a shot at him. I'm just saying.
Though we've had a couple recently, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
We've had a couple recently, both Minka and people don't realize because he played at IMG, but Campbell.
Yeah.
Jod Campbell. He's New Jersey.
Yeah.
But Luke's right. Oh, you know who else is from New Jersey? I wouldn't put him in that category. But Gino Vandermark is originally from New Jersey. But Luke's right. It's not a state that gets a lot of football attention. Probably hurt Lotzier in the recruiting rankings to a degree. But again, On3 had him ranked even early fairly correctly, although I still think he was underranked on On3. But the other services is who were way behind on Lotzier. Probably size, probably New Jersey, probably the fact he didn't really participate in the recruiting process. He really only wanted to go to Alabama. I think this is probably wrong, Luke. I think he went to one camp as a young player. Where'd he go? Nick Saban's Alabama. And did they offer him? Yes. He goes home to New Jersey, doesn't go to a camp again. Alabama changes out coaches. So he's like, well, I better go to a camp again at Alabama because they changed coaches. Goes to Alabama's camp. DeBoer immediately offered him. They knew who he was because they knew Saban had offered him. That's up on the board, in the building. But they Lotzier was just sort of tunnel focused on Alabama and didn't really participate in all the recruiting stuff. That's another reason he wasn't ranked high. He didn't care. I think we cared about it more than the kid does.
And that's another reason to love him, honestly. Talking a little TurboTax now. This message is from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Taxes, it used to be waiting and wondering and worrying if you're going to get any money back. And then waiting and wondering and worrying some more. Now taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. All so you can get the most money back. That's a guarantee. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now, this is taxes. Get an expert today and get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service, real-time updates, only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantee. Okay,
taxes are pretty funny. It's like you're stuck with a bill. Ever think about this? It's like you're billed and you didn't do anything. It's like it's like you owe us this. I'm like, what? Why? Like, well, you were born here. Well, I didn't ask.
I said so. That's why.
It's just like congratulations on being born. Here's your bill.
Well, I always thought when I was a kid, I was like, well, here's $1, and you just keep taxing the same dollar over and over.
Same dollar over and over.
Like, I should get that. We should have serial numbers. That dollar should be taxed once.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right. Okay. So we're going to keep talking some scrimmage in the next podcast for tomorrow too. We're going to talk about Ty Simpson right now, but we're going to pay homage to Julio Jones in tomorrow's podcast. By the way, definitely going to do that. But the scrimmage is such a big deal. And Jimmy, tell me if I'm wrong. The reports I've gotten and the reports I've read make me feel like, yes, Ty Simpson, he's the unquestioned starter. We didn't question Greg McElroy the other day. We were just like, seems like it may be early to declare a winner. Not that he necessarily, put a stamp on it, but I'm leaning towards y'all. Ty Simpson's the guy. Now, some of y'all may not love that. I understand. I'm totally cool with it.
Well, a couple things, stand out to me about the whole. And again, back to the point I made in the first segment. So much of I think in the scrimmage just sort of amplified what had happened all the way up till then. Like it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that Ty is taking most of the snaps with the ones per those reports that we read online on BOL and stuff. It shouldn't surprise anyone to learn that. And it shouldn't surprise anyone that it is Ty. Because, again, what we talked about all during the offseason from January and February and early March, Luke, was, hey, day one, practice one, Ty's going to take the first snap at the ones. We know that. So really it's Ty's thing until one of the other guys takes it from him. And that may happen. It still may happen because fall camp's not here. Florida State game's not here. All those things could happen. But as of right now, today, and I would ask everyone just to ask themselves this. You're playing Florida State next weekend. It's not a day. You're playing Florida State. Who should start the game at quarterback for Alabama to give Alabama the best chance to win? Ty Simpson, because he knows the offense. He's been here. He's a redshirt junior. But most importantly, and this is the biggest point, it's clear reading reports and reading rumors and everything else up to this point that Ty's not only in first place due to his veteran status, he's playing well. He's not doing anything to give the job back. He's not doing anything to make the job seem like it's uncertain and they're splitting reps, and Ty's playing well. This is the best news possible for Alabama fans because, I was reading someone's opinion on the BOL message board earlier today that was talking about how he's never been so certain that Keelan Russell's going to be a star at Alabama. Both of these things can be true.
Yes.
Ty can be playing well and be the starting quarterback to at least start this season. And Keelan can also be a superstar. Again, I'm going to lean on this forever because it's just so true. Bryce and Tua are excellent blueprints for all of this. As big of a star as Keelan might prove to be, can he be a bigger star than Bryce and Tua? Bryce won a Heisman. Tua made the most famous pass in college football history to win a national championship. You can't really do any better. The question is, does Keelan belong in the Bryce and Tua discussion? Bryce and Tua didn't start till year 2. So why must we believe that for Keelan to be Bryce, for Keelan to be Tua, he's got to be out there against Florida State? That just flies in the face of what we all lived through in the very recent past. So I think the way it's kind of playing out is Ty for now, Keelan the future, which could come at any time. It could come at any time, but no one needs to. I know this, Luke, one last point. I talked too long. One last point. If Ty's a quarterback all season and Keelan never starts, but Ty's a quarterback all year, I'm not going to change the way I feel about how good Keelan Russell's going to be. I mean, the fact that Ty's the starter and the quarterback this year will not change the way I feel about how great Keelan Russell's going to be. It just might take some time. And again, the hope is that Ty plays really well in the meantime. And I think that's a very good possibility. I've always said that.
Yeah, and I understand there probably is some hand-wringing in terms of people going, oh my gosh, I'm so worried in the transfer portal. What if Keelan Russell gets frustrated and leaves? See, I think the timing works out kind of well here. I think Ty Simpson's either going to be good enough to be a one-year starter and then go to the pros, or he's going to be not good enough and Keelan Russell's going to take that job.
Yeah,
that's what I believe.
I sort of feel the same way. I think the only monkey wrench could be, and again, this is getting so far ahead of ourselves, it's silly to even waste air on it, but I will anyway. Let's say Ty plays this season, is really good. He's really good, but him and his family make a decision at the end of the year. You know what? I think we need a little more time. We need a little more college experience. So I'm coming back for a 5th year. So then Keelan's got to, quote, sit for 2 years. I think Alabama fans, I'm not talking about myself or Luke or the show. I just think some Alabama fans, that will make them very, very nervous about Keelan staying or not, is if there's 2 years of Keelan sitting and waiting on Ty. And that might happen. I don't know. But I know this. Ty's been patient. There's no reason to assume Keelan won't be. I just think it's just fans' nature to be anxious and, anxiety riddled, and they'll worry about it.
That's also a great point that, we're worried about Keelan Russell being patient, and we should also acknowledge that Ty Simpson has been very patient.
Yeah, extremely patient.
We're always worried about what's next, not what we have.
Yep.
And that's, I say it all the time. Jerry Seinfeld always said men only care what else is on TV, not what's on TV. Like, that's why we keep scrolling through everything. And he's pretty right. How about a little Monarch money talk now out there for y'all? Ever check your bank account and wonder where the money? Between dining out and online shopping and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just another budgeting app. Who told you that? It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Managing money with your partner is also smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for half off your first year. And here I am saving you money again. All right, a little bit of basketball talk. First of all, I do want to tell a story yesterday. It's been funny because the Final Four was great yesterday. It was a lot of fun. And again, I'm telling y'all, I may forget Cinderella's. Y'all know how I feel about Cinderella, the whole story anyway. Cinderella was the hot one. The stepsisters were the ugly ones. Why was that ever even a question?
Makes
Calling
no
somebody
sense.
The Cinderella should be the ones. They're the hot ones. But anyway, so the Final Four was fun. It was especially fun because Auburn lost. And I went on Twitter afterwards. I'm big on jinxes and stuff like that. So I wasn't going to say anything. I wasn't going to run my mouth or do anything. But after the game, if you watch that game between Auburn and Florida, and you think anything other than Florida was getting hosed on calls, because they were clearly getting hosed, it was even national guys on Twitter were like, "What is going on?" It was bad. But that's why Florida is so good. They were getting the raw end of the deal on the calls, and they were down 8 at halftime, and they come back and win. It's really, really impressive. This Florida team is unbelievable. I mean, it's hard to believe it's the same team we saw lose at home to Missouri, frankly. But and then the Duke game was great. But in the middle of the Auburn game, I was at my in-laws' house. Me, my wife, and my daughter, and my wife's dad and his wife, and we were watching the game. And I told myself I don't even want to watch because it's going to ruin my day if Auburn wins. And I just don't even want to watch. It's going to make me sick, and I'm afraid they're going to win. And I said, I'll watch if Florida starts winning. So Florida started winning a little bit in the second half, and I was watching, and my daughter, who also doesn't like Auburn, but she was playing with, she had these balloons because it was my father-in-law's birthday, and she's 8, and she was like hitting the balloons up in the air. And my daughter is also very used to being the center of the universe. So, while everybody was focused on the game, she was sort of like, don't y'all see me over here playing with these balloons? I mean, I'm doing a great job with these balloons.
Show's over here, guys.
She sort of got in the way of the TV, and I said, Seela, let's cool that out for now. So she backed off. And then about 2 minutes later, she does it again. And I said, Seela, let's cool it. So she goes back over, and about 5 minutes later, she comes back, and I said, Seela, I'm going to tell you this one more time. Daddy's trying really hard to make sure Auburn loses, so please move out of the way of the television, as if I had anything to do with it. But that's why this is the best rivalry. If you're an Auburn fan out there going, "Oh, you just obsessed," I kind of am, but I grew up near Auburn, and so that's why this is the best rivalry in sports. And I saw all the Auburn. I tweeted something after the game like, "Hey, Auburn had an unbelievable year. I can't deny that. They were awesome. It was the best team in Auburn history." And they deserve to be in the Final Four. But it's also true that Florida is better, and it's also true that in this particular game, Auburn got the calls and Florida didn't. And some people took exception to that, talking about how you know how you say anything, you can't talk outside the club and blah blah blah. And I was like, y'all are the same people that when Alabama loses to Vandy or Alabama loses to Oklahoma, I promise you. You're on Twitter doing the same thing. That's why our rivalry.
They roll the tree. They'll roll the tree every now and then when something goes bad for Alabama.
That's why our rivalry is good.
Oh, and I love it. I love it that they do that.
I hate y'all. Y'all hate us. It's okay. Hey, watch me. I'm fine. Call me. One guy. It was funny. One guy sort of got into it with me, and he was like, "Well, I hope your podcast is going better than Jay Barker's." I'm like, "Well, I don't even know about Jay Barker's podcast, but I think it is."
Must be. We're not aware of it, so it must be.
Yeah, it must be. We are unaware of it.
Might not be going as well as Ryan Williams. Which is, again, unfair.
I'm disappointed if our podcast is going as well as Ryan Williams.
We had a Ryan Williams podcast before Ryan Williams had a podcast.
And his is better than ours.
Well, of course it is.
We were him before him, and he's still better.
We run better routes.
Regardless, I wanted to just say the final, and then the Duke game was, it was kind of funny because we were laying in bed in the hotel afterwards, and my wife was sort of getting bored of the game, and I was like tweeting and watching the game, and she was like, I'm going to change it. I said, hey, this game's probably over anyway with 10 minutes to go. Duke was up 14. And we just happened to leave it on. And it was one of the dangest things that you've ever seen. It was
last 3 minutes. Houston won the last 3 minutes big time.
Unbelievable. I mean, that just doesn't happen. And so just look, I'm excited about the final. I'm going to watch it. I wish Alabama had done a little better. And on that note, Jimmy, I've already waxed poetic and poured my heart and soul into a podcast about how much I love Mo Dioubate and how much I'm going to miss him.
Sure.
Two things can also be true simultaneously. That I'm going to miss Mo Dioubate. I love him. I wish he wouldn't leave. This is, again, what's wrong with the transfer portal to me, and what's wrong with NIL. Some people may say, let him go get his bag. I can't deny that. But I'm also going to say this, that, see, he's the kind of guy to me that should be an Alabama hero forever. He should be in Alabama basketball lore. He's Michael Ainsley in this era.
In this generation.
In this generation.
On the show next year, we'll probably refer to that hard hat award as the Mo D hard hat goes to. Yeah.
And I'm fine with doing
That's what we'll do on the show. They won't do it in the locker room. That'll be a Locked On Bama thing.
But at the same time, I can recognize when I really got down to brass tacks, Tyler Bowen, who is coming in from Florida State as a transfer, by the way, who we beat Kentucky for him, by the way. Yeah. Kentucky wanted him desperately.
They did.
And he's coming in with essentially the same, if not better stats, and probably a better three-point shooter, and maybe a little more skilled offensively. Now, defensively, I don't know, but he's got a long wingspan. I'm just saying I'm probably making too much of this because I don't know if Tyler Bowen has Mo Diabate's soul. Mo Diabate's soul and passion, they gave life to me. I appreciated it. I appreciated the way he played. Tyler Bowen's got a lot to live up to, but after watching some highlights and seeing his stats and seeing his measurables, I think he can.
Well, it's very Nate Oates era for us to wave goodbye to gifted players that we appreciated for lifting the program and saying hello to the new wave, to borrow Ron Williams' podcast show, the new wave of talent coming in because they'll be just as good or better. I've had no doubt. I mean, I didn't even like seeing Nas Cunningham go. I certainly hated seeing Mo D go, but excited about Noah Williamson, excited about Taylor Bowen, and could be another new one from Miami shortly after our podcast recording ends.
Yeah, Jaleel Bethea. He should be committing here any second, really. I mean, I think, right? I mean, like,
I'd heard 2:00 Central.
Heck, let me check real quick. I thought he was.
I think it's 2 Central.
Oh, it is at 2?
I think so. But okay. I've been tied up since I initially heard 2, and we're recording this earlier than that. That's why you guys are listening to this way after Bethea's supposed announcement. So y'all know more than we do at this moment. But I can tell you that I'm expecting. I mean, Joe Tipton has forecast it. He doesn't miss much. Tim Watts forecast it. I can count on like one hand when Tim has missed. So I'm also forecasting. If Joe Tipton and Tim Watts are saying Alabama, then I'm going to say Alabama. Jaleel Bethea to be another big time pickup. I mean, I'm real curious about that guy though. I mean, he was a top 10 prospect, only averaged 8 points a game despite playing a lot of minutes in Miami. So
I'll give him a pass. Let me tell you why I give him not just the system. Miami was in turmoil.
Yeah, correct.
This program, I mean, their coach just sort of walked away, said he was tired of dealing with it like right before the season. I mean, that whole program was just, I mean, it's hard to show up. I'll say the same. This is sort of the same thing with Tyler Bowen. If you watch his YouTube highlights, a lot of them are in Florida State's gym, obviously. And it's almost like they're playing in front of a crowd that I see when my 8-year-old daughter's playing basketball. Like there are about 30 people there. And so what I think is it's difficult. I mean, sometimes people make fun of Alabama's crowds.
Do people not go to your daughter's basketball games because they're all standing in front of the TV while you're trying to watch a Final Four game and they're all in front of the TV. Nobody's going because they're all standing in front of the TV.
What if Janai Broom came to my daughter's basketball game and started hitting balloons around while she was playing? Like, how's it feel now?
Well, I would start liking Janae Broom a lot more than I like him now, because that would be funny.
That would be hilarious.
I'd be like, he plays for Auburn, but that is hilarious.
That would be downtown funny. But okay, what the heck was I talking about? Oh, but Tyler Bowen, what I'm saying is, it's got to be tough for somebody like, can we call him TBB?
Oh, go right ahead. I'll know who you're talking about.
TB squared?
I don't think you have to do it twice. I think TBB once is good.
Okay. TBB.
TB squared. TB squared. There you go.
That's what I said, TB squared, yeah.
Oh, I thought you said
TBB squared would be 4.
Yeah.
No.
Hey, well, let's go get 2 of him. He seems good. We could use 2 of them.
All right. But so what I'm saying is, when you're playing in front of crowds like that, I wonder if like some dudes are like, nobody's here. How am I supposed to get jacked up? Now, the competitor in you should always take over, of course. But I'm saying, I get it. And maybe when he comes to Bama next year and you're playing, you got Purdue rolling into Tuscaloosa, you got Arizona rolling into Birmingham. Here, hand to Bible, I said this last night. I hope we continue to schedule home and homes with Houston, because playing those dudes makes you better.
Toughens you up.
Makes you better.
Toughens you up. And I think it's awesome that Alabama's had success against Houston, and here they are in a national championship game. Just goes to show how good Alabama is. I don't care what the final, as far as I'm concerned, Alabama finished 5th because they have wins.
Yeah.
A win over a team in the championship game. One last point I'll make. We said all year that what our hope was, it wasn't so much a forecast, but a hope. But our hope is admitting that Auburn won January and February, and Alabama would win March. Yeah. Well, we were half right. Yeah. Auburn won January, February. Florida won March. Yep.
All right, that's going to do it for today's pod. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.